This is Taryn Lupo reporting for the Low Country Liberty Report. This edition is brought to you by Stash Your Swag. This ebook contains over 100 secret hiding places all around your house. You can make these hiding places with everyday objects and won't cost much money. Everything in the book, again, is under $50. These days, crime is going through the roof, and banks are getting nationalized by the government and cannot be trusted. You have to go back to the old ways, the way our grandparents kept their stuff safe. Stash your valuables all over your house. This book will give you plenty of ideas how to do that. StashYourSwag.com.
Hi, this is Taryn Lupo, and welcome to Low Budget Theater. Today we are going to be talking about taxes made simple. Morality of taxes. We have two citizens here, or for you people that are hung up on it, we can call them residents, A and B. Now, there's two types of exchanges we're going to talk about. The first happens when citizen A has something and citizen B has something, and they work out some sort of deal where they exchange what they have voluntarily. Now, citizen A can make a deal, he can sell, they can exchange, he can beg, he can plead, but the whole thing is that it's voluntary. So let me put that right there. It's voluntary. What makes it voluntary is B can take his stuff and say no. As long as B can take his stuff and go home, then it's voluntary. Now let's look at the other kind of exchange. We have citizen A and B. A wants what B has. B doesn't want to give it to him and says no. A uses force to take what B has. B did not want to give it up. This is what we call involuntary. So when A takes B's possessions by force and B has no choice in it, we call that exchange involuntary. Now kids, keep that in mind as we talk about taxes. Let's take another scenario that understand this point. A and B are walking down the road and they come across a homeless man or a beggar. Now A talks to B and A says, I don't have any money, but B, you have money. Why don't you give that money to the beggar? They talk about it for a while and B says, okay, it's a nice thing to do, and he gives the money to the beggar. Again, this is a voluntary interaction. B chose freely to give his money away. Now, take another scenario where A and B are walking down the road, and A says to B, B, you need to give, I don't have any money, you should give money and take care of this homeless man. B says, I don't want to give my money, I need my money. A says, well, I'm going to take this money away from you and then redistribute it to someone who's more needy. So B didn't want to give up his money and he was forced to by A. We call that an involuntary interaction. It's no different than a burglar. It's just in prettier clothing. Does morality justify taking money, doing theft in order to help someone who's homeless? Let's take another look at this. A and B both have money. B has more money than A. A says, hey, someone really needs to help this homeless guy. There's our homeless guy. Someone needs to do it. B doesn't want to do it. A can get enough people together and get a group to follow him. He can go to the law and get a law passed that will say B has to give his money to the homeless. Now, A does not take the gun and actually rob B. What he does is he sends in the police, which can take money if B doesn't want to give it up. They give it back to the government, and the government redistributes it to the homeless person. Now, was force being used? You tell me. Is this voluntary or involuntary? Does B want to give up his money? No. Involuntary interaction is just a little more complicated because A is using the government's muscle to take from B. Many politicians like to use the phrase that we are a democracy. Democracy means majority rules. So 51% of the people can basically decide what the other percentage, the minority, does. Now, Ben Franklin described this democracy as two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. Majority rule can be a very dangerous thing because it can take, the majority can take whatever they want from the minority. Let's examine this idea some more. A wants some things. They would like an education. They would like their drugs paid for. They would like money, welfare, and they'd like their kids to go to school. All these things A thinks the government should provide. Now the government has to get these things from somewhere, and they start looking at B. If A can get enough people to agree, they can go take B's stuff. Now it doesn't start out like that. What will happen is if B says no, first he'll get into legal troubles, which will cost him money. Then, eventually, they will use force if B says no long enough and take his possessions. If B continues to resist, what will eventually end up happening is B will get incarcerated and go to jail over money, over resisting taxes. So the lesson here is if you can get enough people to agree with you, you can take whatever you want from other people. Just to simplify all this, we're going to call this force. So anytime there's force involved, you're taking something from other people. Unfortunately, whenever you pay in money to the government, it always ends up the same way. As a lot of it gets skimmed off in the bureaucracy, and very little of it actually gets to wherever you want. It might be only a little bit that gets through. Government really only has one play. It doesn't matter what the situation is when you think about it. It might be something really nice, like to help homeless people, or help our veterans, or help whatever it is. But when they use force to take money and give it to other people, that's dirty money. So the government really only has one play. Taxes will always equal force. That's the way. There's always a hidden threat. I mean, I pay all my taxes and I hate it because I don't want to lose my house. What else can you do? So hopefully you learned a little bit of lesson here. And just remember, the reason we got into this mess is because the way our government's structured. As soon as you allow a group of 51 people to take something of the other 49, this is going to happen. So what we need to do to change this is to stop turning to the government for every single solution.
In summary, if we look to private solutions instead of tax-based ones, we'll be in a lot better shape. It's Terran Lupo, good hunting.